Has Nancy Pelosi been engaged in insider trading? Nancy Pelosi, democracy crusader or inside trader? Let's have a look at what's caused this question to be asked. Let's have a look. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband cashed in on big tech just as Congress was set to pounce. The week before the House Judiciary Committee voted on reining in big tech, Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband exercised a bet on Google parent Alphabet in a timely transaction that netted him $5.3 million. The antitrust bill was advanced as a push by the government to curb the unregulated power of big tech firms Google, Amazon, Apple and Facebook. However, despite its intentions, the market reaction to the judiciary panel approving the legislation was muted. Shares in big tech companies, in fact, rose after investors found the House proposal to be no real threat. So even though it looked like this bill might have an impact on the profits of big tech, it didn't. Paul Pelosi, who bought 4,000 shares of Alphabet on June the 18th, made an initial $4.8 million gain from Alphabet's rising share price and has since seen his gain grow to $5.3 million. He bought the stock by exercising a call option which allows investors to speculate on stocks they do not own by entering into a contract that allows them to buy stock at a later date at a promised price. Paul Pelosi also reported buying call options for Amazon and Apple. Nancy Pelosi's spokesperson said the Speaker has no involvement or prior knowledge of these transactions. So Nancy Pelosi, who's involved in the creation and passing of this bill, has no conversations, we're to assume, with Paul Pelosi, her husband, who's investing in companies that benefit from the nature of that bill. Just like you, with the person that you live with. When you're going to bed with them, you just go, what have you been doing at work today? Oh, just constructing this bill that's not going to have any impact on the profits of big tech companies. Oh, because a lot of people thought it might impact the profit of big tech companies. Yeah, but it ain't really. And what are you doing at your work? Oh, nothing. What, you're not investing in big tech companies? Mind your own business. You just get on with being you. You do you. I'll be me over here on this pillow. No one has conversations like that. And if you think those conversations do happen, you're some sort of, I don't know, fascist or communist or something extreme rather than a rational person looking at how human beings operate, how politics functions and how big business and politics are continually embedded with each other, in some cases, literally. Republican Senators Richard Burr and Kelly Loeffler had inside knowledge of the impending COVID-19 crisis when they sold shares in January 2020. Burr sold $1.7 million worth of stock holdings, while the former Senator Loeffler, wife of the New York Stock Exchange Chairman Jeffrey Sprecher and richest member of Congress at the time, unloaded up to $3.1 million worth of stock after getting closed-door briefings on the COVID-19 threat. What to us might look like scandal, to them is just kind of normal business. Of course, we've got no evidence that anything nefarious has happened. That's not the kind of operation we're running here. But it seems plausible to speculate that people that live with each other in a house might have conversations about what they're doing at work, particularly if their work might affect each other's outcomes. And in the case of people that are sort of married or live with one another, shared interest. We've always known this about politics. We've always known this about big business. I suppose what's particularly disheartening for people that, bang a drum for the left or wave flags for the Democrats is to see that prominent politicians that are members of that party don't seem to be any different from those in bed with big business Wall Street lovers in the Republican Party. Put simply, what difference does it make whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans in power? Same old corruption, same old scandals, same old never really being able to prove anything, business as usual. But the simple legal fact is it's illegal for Congress members to trade based on non-public information gathered during their official duties. But it is hard to charge members of Congress with insider trading. Neither Burr or Loeffler faced any charges following inquiries. So while we're talking about the Nancy Pelosi insider trading question, and the fact that it's not an uncommon thing and it's happened many times, is a very, very difficult thing to prove. Glenn Greenwald writes, as House Republicans vocally denounce big tech in media appearances, many simultaneously use their power to impede legislative reform. Last June, the House subcommittee overseeing antitrust law issued a comprehensive 450-page report that concluded that four Silicon Valley companies, Facebook, Amazon, Google and Apple, are classic monopolies. We know this. It means that they're able to completely control the market. They're so powerful it's impossible to impede their progress. They buy up competitors. They can completely control the marketplace. This is something that we all know and understand. They are collectively more powerful than many, many nations. And when that much power is centralized, then it's very difficult to regulate those companies, particularly when they have government alliances. If your interests are shared with people that govern and control legislation, it's very, very unlikely that any legislation will be passed that isn't just a mere phatic, empty gesture, such as the legislation that's recently been passed, which it seems on the surface, at least to some people, that Paul Pelosi may have had knowledge of, that he could potentially have got from Nancy Pelosi. If this were true, that would mean that the Democrat Party and its sort of heroic, symbolic, front-footed figures ain't no better than nobody else. Well, gee, wouldn't that be a surprise if that proved to be true? The report was widely praised by antitrust activists and scholars. I like this. I'm an antitrust scholar. See my pipe? Yet it highlighted a strange political phenomenon. House Republicans have been flamboyantly waving the anti-big tech banner with increasing passion and aggression, often in response to growing online censorship. Virtually every television appearance or in-district rally by House Republicans entails righteous denunciations of Silicon Valley monopoly power. Yet none of the committee Republicans were willing to sign on to or support the report. In sum, there was a huge gap between the rhetoric about the evils of big tech and the actions of House Republicans, which not only failed to follow through on their fiery language, but oftentimes seemed devoted to protecting the interests of the very Silicon Valley giants they were publicly denouncing. There are key members in both parties who seem loyally devoted to shielding Facebook, Google and others from any meaningful reform. Well, we know how lobbying works, don't we? You lobby one or both of those political parties, likely both, ensuring that no matter who is in power, legislation and regulation is passed that is always favourable to your business interest. The reason this story is interesting, I suppose, is because we have a figure from the Democrat Party that seems to be behaving in precisely the way you would expect if your belief was it doesn't matter which party is in power, the relationships between Wall Street, big tech and Washington are the same, no different here in this country, no different in whatever country you're in. These kind of alliances and relationships exist, perhaps not in such a comedic, literally in the same bed fashion as seemed to be exhibited in this case, but that is the way that the world runs. And if you want the world run differently, it's going to involve a lot more than voting for the other colour in an election. And you might think that the 5.3 million that Paul Pelosi made out of that deal is small fry, and compared to some of the sums of money that are flying about in that world, it is indeed. But you've got to consider that it is one rule for them and one rule for us. Imagine you were found culpable of insider trading. Not that anybody has been at this stage. Imagine you were, how that would affect your life. One rule for them, another rule for us. Don't matter who's in power, same deal. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. And if you need to meditate now, and God knows I do, subscribe to my Awakening channel too, on YouTube also. And if you want to see me having in-depth conversations about exactly these type of topics, sign up for Luminary, where my podcast Under the Skin involves a deep conversation every week, and I do a guided meditation every week. And if you want my mailing list, you want to be on it, go over to russellbrand.com and sign up for that too. Thank you.